Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast. And I'm your host, Josh. SalvationsElite to my right is Bash_Bo3, and to our farthest right, per usual, is none other than Rex Shady Nero. And guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, as you haven't already noticed, something's a little bit different about this podcast because as the CDL moved on to LAN, we have moved online. I moved to a different state. I'm now residing in Indiana. So we're a 3-state podcast now, rocking and rolling. And we have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the best of the major this weekend was insane, like actually crazy, like legitimately one of the best tournaments of all time for Call of Duty. And so we have a lot to talk about today, obviously, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a Rostermania tier list in the sense that we're going to be basically categorizing players about what are the odds they leave their current team and we create some mania this offseason. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about this major as well. So without further ado, guys, I mean, boys, before we get into all of that, I've got to ask, what's going on?
Well, Josh, did you know that cheetahs can't roar?
I did.
That's right. It's my new thing, guys.
Wow.
Fun facts.
Oh. Wow.
That's right.
So we're switching it up.
Decided to do some rebranding.
I like it.
So, wow,
like
the intros are just going to be fun facts now, huh? Wow, what a time to be alive.
We'll
okay.
see.
All right, we'll see how it lands.
The moon says.
We'll see how it goes.
I was just expecting so much more, and then it was just kind of the end, and I was just like, all right. You know, it's kind of like a ride breaking at the top of before you actually go down.
He started doing the hard cutoffs, and then now it's like the facts. So he's slowly evolving.
Yeah.
I like
Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I am currently no pants. Because who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Word to that, my brother.
Dude, you weren't willing to do it while I was there?
You know,
bruh?
I could have, but I just, certain things.
Insane, bro. I'm pissed. But yeah, we got a lot to get into today, obviously. You can listen on Apple Podcasts. You can listen on Spotify. But obviously, the GOATs watch on YouTube. And you can drop a review on Apple Podcasts. You can drop a comment on YouTube. And today, we have a very special review. And this guy, he broke all the rules. Alex Williams wrote a 5-star review. And he came into my chat on Twitch and was like, yo, I don't have an iPhone, but I want to drop a 5-star review. So he left one in the comments on our last YouTube video. So today, Alex Williams says, 5-star review. As sunlight is to plants, the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast is to my happiness. Simply, it's the fabric of my existence, hosted by Josh, SalvationsElite, the untouched hidden gem of the COD scene, alongside his delectable acquaintances, Bash, Bo3, and Rex Shady Nero. This podcast brings a boundless depth of knowledge, insight, and assessment of the erratic occurrences of the amateur and professional Call of Duty scenes. The wit and charm of these 3 gentlemen create a beautiful podcast, which is a delight to the ears. Broken down into clearly defined segments, the show seamlessly transitions. That's very kind of you. Across the weekly material, allowing the listener to drift into a state of serenity and peacefulness. As an avid listener for more than a year now, I eagerly await the podcast each Tuesday in the knowledge that this podcast will deliver a jaw-dropping experience. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sheesh.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dude,
Mr.
Alex
Williams.
Williams dropping the bombs for us. But I do appreciate it, man.
It was a comment. I know it was a comment, but did it for sure state 5 stars?
Oh, it said my 5-star review.
Wow.
Bang.
Okay.
Did we get a like on the video?
Yeah, and we got to get that like on the video too, but things you'll love to see. So shout out Alex for the 5-star. We appreciate that. And obviously we're still going to be kind of figuring out this whole like online world, how this feels for doing this thing online. So we're going to have to probably roll through a few different bumps along the road here, but we'll do our best. So without further ado though, I mean, if you guys got nothing else to say, I think we can get right in to the news of the week.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
Yeah, baby, let's go. So nowadays, right now, I'm the only person that can actually hear the drops when the drops are played for you guys out there. So Sam and Rex completely sit there and pretend like they're hearing it. So it's good stuff. But Rex, what do we got today, man? The news, bring it to us.
All right, news of the week. Halo Infinite coming out I think they had their first flight that happened, but for competition, it's going to be cross input.
Yeah, so
keyboard, mouse, and controller.
This gets interesting. I mean, this isn't obviously it's not COD news, but I mean, I wanted to talk about it because
it's COD's brother.
It's COD's brother.
They grew up together.
Yeah, exactly. And they're console brothers. So Sam's the Halo expert around here. So Sam, what does this mean for Halo? Because I honestly, enlighten me.
No, absolutely. So
for a dead esport,
it's
not
at all, man. It's gonna go big. Infinite's gonna be great.
No, I'm excited for this because honestly, obviously it's Halo, it's not Call of Duty, but I think this is going to set a standard for the esports industry as a whole, which is pretty cool. And also on top of that too, it's also across platforms. So it's also Xbox Series X and PC too. So it's like, that's pretty cool.
I don't know, man.
Obviously like the majority of the pros are going to be playing on PC, right? But I think with the way Halo is, controller will still dominate, just with the movement aspect of it.
Why was Frosty so pissed then? Because Frosty was actually pissed.
He was. I think he was more. I guess I don't know. I think certain players are going to jump to conclusions, obviously, and time will tell. I think I saw like people like Snakebite, people like Spartan. If you guys know who that is, we're actually pretty happy with it. They said, you know what, the more eyes, the more available it is, you know, that'd be awesome. But man, I can see it going two ways. I can see it going horribly, but I can also see it being like where it's like you might see some players where it's like some teams got like 3 controller players, 1 mouse and keyboard player, maybe got a combo of both. Maybe they're all mouse and keyboard, and I don't know.
Man,
we'll see what happens.
I feel like it's going to be really hard at first. Because I guess like no one truly knows what the better input is going to be.
Figure out the meta of it all.
Right. And maybe there isn't, maybe it will just sit in this like midway point. Like if you're better on key, like it won't matter. But, you know, consensus is that keyboard and mouse is better. But I don't know if that's going to be totally the case for Halo. And I don't know if that would be the case for COD either.
I mean, wouldn't there be a world where like, let's say this happened for COD, because like, wouldn't there be a world where maybe like a main AR or something could be a PC player, but then like the SMGs would have to be controller players?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Is that a thing for Halo? Is there like that kind of like where they could potentially switch like that? Like
there is, yeah. Like, you know, there's absolutely like just for instance, for those who do watch
like snipers or something.
Yeah, like if you're watching OpTic, the OpTic with Snakebite, Lethal, Royal 2,
right, and
Frosty. Royal 2 was kind of known as their guy that would just post up. He would post up and just beam. It's like you could see that play style where people are just going to be known for either sniping,
that'd be
just
interesting.
Posting up. So that could for sure be a thing. You know, obviously we're going to see how Infinite plays out and what's the meta going to be. Well, the meta is more like everyone starts with the same thing, and then seeing who goes for what. But so yeah, I'm very curious to see how it's going to play out. But again, you got Adam Apicella behind it with Esports Engine because they've already announced their partnership. So I think they're going to make sure it's fair as possible. Obviously, that's more on the dev side with the aim assist and stuff like that. But then with like the competitive side, I think there's a way to balance that out too. So I'm excited to see it, and if it goes well, I do hope that more esports adopt it that do have controllers. So
I think if it goes well, I would like to see other esports adopt it because it just like.
But by other esports, you mean
the range.
There's no other esports that do this. It's
I mean, in the future, other esports, I don't know.
Gears, maybe? I don't know.
Talking about dead.
You never know.
I don't know, man. It just scares me. I'm not sold that it could work. Like,
do you think PC is just going to be better than controller, or do you think controller will be better than PC?
My thought is in the long term, the PC is guaranteed to be better. Like in the short term, the movement, the pros who are already so good on controller are going to beat the meta. But then eventually down the road, you'd find players who are just so good on PC doesn't matter. You know, that's kind of just how I seem like. It feels like it's like that feels inevitable.
Yeah. But The one thing I will say is Apex right now, I believe, does do the cross like controller, keyboard, and mouse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Snipe Down, a former Halo pro, is now playing Apex, and he's keeping up with them, and he's on controller. So I mean, I think again, there are examples of it, but like you're right, that like we haven't seen a long term.
Yeah, so
Apex
it just
is
gets
still
me
like
worried.
2-3 years.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a world where if this works well for Halo, then immediately COD would adopt it.
Yeah.
So like that's
Yeah.
what gets a little scary for me, at least with that kind of idea. But I don't know, we'll see. I mean, probably enough convo on that for now, but definitely
Interesting.
to say the least. But yeah, Rex, what else you got for us?
So somebody, let me find this here.
Well, this was kind of a whole conversation on like the state of content in this scene because
Right.
I was hoping to have it ahead of it, but basically Toronto started a little series called Toby's Talents, which is with Kleenex, and it was talking about kind of the up and coming like talent in the challenger scene and some players that Toby thinks are really, really good players that deserve some spotlight. I thought it was really interesting, like cool little segment that they were doing for like a Twitter post or whatever.
Mhm.
And it kind of created, then I also saw a post on Reddit about kind of like the state of content in the CDL. So kind of my little newsy thought was like, what's your guys' thoughts on the current state of content in the COD League? And what would it look like heading into like next year? Because that was kind of a conversation I was wanting to have at some point. I didn't really know where to put it, so I just threw it in the news.
So there have been teams actually that are making content like Paris, even like the least likely of all the teams you'd think, has like a thing kind of
Facts.
like, it's called Regain. Each of them have like their own like documentary style, which I think is what people need to do. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve involved, but like in this post too, they're kind of roasting the fans because like they're making content, like every team practically is making content, but nobody goes to watch it except if it's OpTic, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And FaZe.
That man. So one, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, we've seen like what Dallas does, kind of their documentary series. Ultra do theirs. Minnesota has theirs. Obviously, OpTic, and then other teams kind of do like variety, kind of throwing things in there. I think those are kind of the four teams that really lead the charge with like the content in the CDL right now. And then you have all the player content, obviously, like the pros who do their own thing, like, you know, Attach and Octane and Apathy when he posts, and all the FaZe guys are kind of posting somewhat consistently now, and you're kind of doing that. But I don't know. That's what gets me a little bit like interested, is kind of like diving into what that looks like in the future. And then like, do you think there is upside for growth for like these smaller teams? Well, basically the not OpTic teams for like content.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like even just them making a docuseries, like personalizing the players, that like getting to know them is already a step in the right direction of what I think teams need to do to build a fan base.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing, is that like people don't really consider how long OpTic's been posting content versus how long any other team in a CDL has been posting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, OpTic's been doing this for 12, 13 years now. So that,
Oh, yeah.
that matters in the long term with building a brand and like building a fan base. And I mean, Skump's been there since what, 2012 now. So it's like, that matters. 9 years of having someone on a team makes it, like, that's how you build a fan base.
Yeah.
And like I think too, like we saw Octane, like he went from couple
Yeah,
thousand to
that's
over
true.
100K. So like
To being the fan favorite versus the best team in the league
Yeah.
on LAN.
yeah, and like that was pretty much all Octane being that guy that was known as the YouTuber. So I think there is for sure room to grow. There's room to grow a fan base. I was actually just having this conversation with another guy, and it's like seeing like how OpTic, again, like we all know, like OpTic has a home team advantage everywhere they go.
Yeah.
So it's like how do teams like Paris, like London and Florida get to that point where it's like it's not so overwhelmingly OpTic? And I think it is just slowly growing in it, because, you know, again, like you said, we've seen OpTic do this for 10 years now. So
I mean, the team
also
is
having
the
a
best,
consistent roster as well, I
That's
think
true.
plays a big part, because if someone's changing out players all the time, you never can get to know the team
And that
like
year-to-year story that you can
like
create.
an NFL team, when they get a quarterback, like that's the guy.
He's there
like,
for 15 years, 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like in the same in COD, it's like you want to build like who is your staple guy that people come to want to watch and see. So for Surge, Octane.
Again, Scump's the only one that's been able to do that, you know? So it's like to stay that long with the team, obviously Formal's there again now, but like,
do you think
it matters for sure with the content creation? Again, like I was going to say is the Rokkr, like they're the only team that's really done a pretty good job of like engaging their local communities and kind of creating this like culture around their team of like, let's root for the home team and do it. And that's why I really respect about how they built their brand.
I think Subliners is doing a pretty decent job also.
True. They are. And the Subliners have really doubled down on the content. Obviously, I mean, Zuma's frontline that. I mean, you know, he'll get whatever he wants from that org now when it comes to like how he's going to get paid, I'd imagine, stuff.
Oh, yeah.
For the brand that he's building for them now. But yeah, it's insane. I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be a short, or it's going to be a long-term process. And then in the short term, you just got to keep putting content out and then like really prioritize finding that kind of like core foundational piece for your team, you know, heading into off seasons and trying to find those guys to retain rosters and build that culture around your organization, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be hard too with like, obviously now with the franchise league and like not being able to retain people for very long.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more turnover, obviously, but I kind of wonder too if that's where it's going to help to like sign content creators for a team where it's like have these personalities for your team and be able to build that fan base where that translates into the competitive team. So I don't know.
I mean, I was actually just thinking that, Sam's like teams, they need to find content creators that are going to, if like the pros aren't going to be their content creators, they need to find other people that can promote that pro scene and promote that team for you, who can be that personable person. I think like E United back in the day, I think they like picked up Legion at one point, though I don't know like how involved in the competitive scene he was. But like the more involved they are with the competitive team and scene, the better it's going to be for your team. Yeah, that makes a
lot of sense. I mean, because like, I mean, again, like I think Zuma is the greatest example. Like before kind of like the Zuma and Clay kind of combo there with New York, I mean, the brand, there's now literally a culture around the New York team, the fan base kind of like that was not there before. So like if teams can capitalize on that with the content and then having the stable content creators to kind of keep that brand throughout the coming years for that organization, I actually think that makes a lot of sense.
And I think because like Clay was a big defining piece and Subliners, I think leveling up. Sure. But at this point with Zuma doing so well, if Clay leaves, I think that organization still has a chance to keep rising because of Zuma. Like Clay isn't their king piece anymore, that Clay is their queen and Zuma's your, I guess in a way, your king or something. You can lose it and then you're not going to lose the whole game of it.
Actually, yeah. That was a chess reference. Nice.
Yeah, I tried. It, kind of there.
All right. I respect that. That's a good play. No, yeah, actually, yeah. I think that's gonna be really fun to see how kind of like those brand develops and like the content develops, because like legitimately, like Toronto's like docu-series was really good for the last stage. So like it'll be interesting to see how depressing this one is. But
for sure.
after how insane they played for most of the stage, but I just think there is a lot of opportunity, and if you can keep that roster year to year and then bring in content creators to kind of help build the culture around your teams, that really is the formula for success for brand building moving forward, I think, in a CDL. So
I fixed
it.
Fun. Clay was the original queen piece. Zuma was a pawn that made it to the other end of the board.
Oh, and
became
up
a queen.
And now they had two queens.
So now they have two queens, so you can lose one and you still have a queen.
Oh, okay. I like it.
And queen is the strongest piece in chess, obviously. So
yeah,
there you go.
Well, only one org has ties to chess, and that's the Empire. So I don't know with the Bo3 sisters.
Word to envy.
We'll see. All right. Well, what else we got here?
Bo3 sisters.
Yeah. Shout out.
Skrapz.
Oh yeah.
He tweeted out he's gonna have a hard look at what's next for him in retirement. He says, "What a hard year. Let a lot of people down, but glad I lasted throughout. Time to go home and have a hard think about what's next for me. It's love, peeps."
Yeah, that doesn't sound like he's convinced he's getting a spot next year.
No, not at all, which is very sad. again, I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 times more with him breaking up with Weskins, and
which was kind of forced by London.
Forced for sure, and I think that just kind of set him up for disaster, honestly, and the whole situation with Paris and their like initial roster.
Yeah,
it was just, I don't know, man. I feel bad for him because it was not set up well for him to like perform well at LAN either. You know what I mean? Like it just not much you can do there. So I would love to see him back on the sticks next year. I hope it would be awesome with Weskins too, but
I know he
right now
just
it might just be Warzone.
Maybe it was just a down bad tweet because like he definitely didn't play that great at the major, so it was kind of like a situation maybe where he was just like feeling bad. He just said it just to say it, you know.
Well, now that like playoffs are over, like that team didn't do too well.
Yeah,
you know, they're thinking about making changes, obviously, and you're in a question mark state.
Right? No, for sure. So I mean, that's what gets scary, I guess, and we'll have to see what happens. Man. I'll be pissed. That would suck so bad. Skrapz isn't in the league. You got to be kidding me, dude.
He's a staple, man.
Insane. Is he the type of guy that like OpTic would pick up as like a content creator for Warzone?
For sure. If it's Warzone, I can almost like see like Envy and OpTic trying to sign him.
Yeah, because you can get the twins for like a Warzone duo type situation. That makes a lot of sense for basically every team in a CDL.
That'd be huge.
So
yeah, I think it's also going to depend on how much growth they can accrue as well.
Yeah, for sure. In the off season. That's why like
and
grinding for him will be huge in the next like 3 months.
If they can prove consistency with the content and they're bringing in a decent amount of views, and shows like a sense of commitment, I think they could get picked up. But I think orgs are going to want to see that first.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting actually to see how I think a lot of pros are going to try to do that. Like a lot of the fringe guys hedge their bets probably heading into Rostermania and into the next game. So I don't know. That's gonna be fun.
Okay, so Seattle Surge, they obviously played way better than people's expectations were at this major. But Joey Nubzy tweets out, thanks for giving me a show, brother. You're pretty good occasionally. Now fly, my bird. And then Octane says, nah, we run that back for show.
Yeah.
Referencing that they might be trying
work
to together
link it up again. Yeah.
But who knows what's in store for both of these people?
Right. They're good friends. They've been living together. Like it makes sense that they're showing each other the gas, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Octane. I mean, Octane, again, we're gonna be talking about Rostermania people heading into the offseason. So Octane's a really interesting case now, especially after the Surge's success here at the last major and what that could look like with his contract and heading into Rostermania and what teams are going to be interested in him. So I'm excited to see what that could look like.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything to look into when he says, nah, we run that back?
Now,
do you think Octane stays with the Surge?
I had a tweet. I tweeted out after, Surge had the run. I said, okay, so Surge, do they stay together? And majority of people are saying yes. So,
really?
Yeah.
Man, that's such a tough decision for Surge to make, though.
For sure. Like, because
two really bad seasons,
and I'm sure Octane has a massive contract.
Mm-hmm. But like, so the thing is like you saw the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, hey, if we have land, we can do this.
Yeah. So I mean, it's possible. But like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Like honestly, I like Joey Nubzy a lot. I feel like in the past, I kind of like roasted like how good of a coach he was. As time's gone on, I've got to know him more or whatever.
Yeah, warmed up to him,
I guess. Like, I actually really like what he was doing with the Surge team. In the end, you could see it at the LAN, how much better it was, how invested he was in the amateur scene. I think he is somebody who does know his stuff when it comes to coaching and COD.
Well, yeah, and like you said, I mean, he is one of the guys who actually does invest in the AM scene and like kind of knows his young talent, and like that can be valuable for an organization.
I hope he gets something else, to be honest. He should go to not doing Surge again.
He should go to an org that has an amateur team, that has an academy team. Because he'd be great for that, to kind of help organize that and like work with that talent there too. So that's actually really interesting. We'll see. But that also means if Surge isn't going to bring back Nubzy, then does that mean that Octane's going to be going to a place where they don't have a coach or a replaceable coach or will Nubzy come back as an assistant? Like, what is that going to look like? If they're really dedicated to running this thing back, I guess that's what we'll have to talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it also probably comes down to like how contract stuff works out and all that.
Oh yeah.
But I wish that all those Seattle guys the best of luck. They showed this past major that they can compete. They could be at champs and they could do better than maybe some other teams that are going to be there.
Yeah, which was wild to say the least. Which again, we'll talk about that in a second though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up, Crim Informal. Did they bury the hatchet? Crim 6 tweeted out after the GG's OpTic, Rokkr, LA Thieves, teamwork,
really
discipline,
jealous.
and listening
I'm
was
really
non-existent this event. All good. Formal and I are flipping each other's titties in the smoke area right now. So the blood feud maybe is over. It's probably just Crim talking and, blood feud's maybe not as deep as we think it is. I don't know.
That is comedy, bro.
I know.
Maybe
Maybe that
it's
OpTic podcast will happen.
a little scoop-de scoop
The
going
dynasty.
on. I mean, they both got something to work with, so
like-
I mean, no wonder,
You did mine and I did yours, huh?
Yeah.
Dude, Crim
deeper.
has been on one, bro. I died when he came out and shot the pistol
Oh my gosh,
with his
dude.
cowboy hat on.
Awesome.
Bro, the edits of that on the Reddit were hilarious.
gosh.
I was losing it.
He has fully embraced this role, and it couldn't be better. It couldn't be better.
It's so
Mhm.
good
I
for the
love it.
scene. I can't imagine. I mean, like, if he made content right now, I mean, like, what a missed opportunity for Crim. He could be making freaking bank if he was
Mhm.
making content right now, because I mean, he actually is comedy.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of Crim, there was, I think, like an interview of him talking about what they learned about this FaZe team. He's like, I'm not going to come on that, but it seemed like they lost both their matches and it was the only time we were on LAN. So FaZe got a reality check, is what he's saying.
Yeah, it was interesting because he said that like after stage 4, not even before. That was before, FaZe ended up losing both their matches here in stage 5. So I'd imagine Crim probably would even double down on that now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm.
Thoughts on that? What do you think?
Are FaZe onliners? Do we really think that?
No, obviously not. They
No.
won stage 4. I mean, like Crim said, is that again, he was referencing what Arcity said in the post-game interview when Arcity's said that they played terrible, but they still won. And then Crim was like, oh, you're playing terrible suddenly, huh? Like the Crim was kind of poking jokes at it, obviously. And like, he's always at least 25% trolling. But either way, I mean, maybe if some of the certain style of gunfights that FaZe tries to do once in a while doesn't translate as effectively on LAN, but there's no way that FaZe are onliners.
No.
Like that's just so not the case.
No.
But
No,
I think most of the community is kind of just joking about that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Bad event, but it definitely is something. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Sam, your camera's
Got it.
We're
Welcome
back,
back.
baby.
We're back.
okay. Oh, this is drama alert. Drama alert. The COD paparazzi has spotted Huke and Skyz were sitting next to each other on Champs Sunday.
That's big.
Are they dating? Are they divorcing? Are they teaming?
I don't know, Maybe they're just trying to sit next to each other at a Sunday. I mean, they got shown on camera on Sunday sitting next to each other at the event. Nothing shocking there, but like at the same time, some people were like, like sound the alarms. That means Huke's going to Florida. Sound the alarms. It's time. But I don't know. I mean, the last time, to be fair, the last time I saw someone like where it was like, oh, that's weird that they're sitting next to each other was when Formal was sitting next to Gunless before they teamed together on
That's
LG.
right. Yep.
That's right. I was
So
at
in the
Champs and
past-
I was like, oh, that's weird. Formal and Gunless are sitting next to each other right now.
In
And
the
then
past, seats
they
next to
teamed.
each other have showed us that
Around
they
Champ
end up
season.
teaming.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You never know. You never know. So
you heard it
keep
here
that in the
first.
back of your minds, you know. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Challengers news. APAC and EU playoffs started.
Oh, man.
NA starting Wednesday, this Wednesday. And Shift. I hold Shift, one of our esteemed guests on this podcast sometimes.
The only esteemed guest.
The guest.
Yeah. He streamed for 48 hours the Challengers tournaments.
Yeah, and he's doubled down on it too. So shout out to Shift, because Frey, watch Shift stream this week, because he's going to be streaming all of Challengers Champs this weekend, and it culminates, I think, Saturday night, Sunday with the schedule. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah. And then, so just be checking out I Hold Shift stream. Hopefully we can have him on next week to kind of break down the whole weekend and talk about everything that went on. But it's going to be a good time. We're looking forward to it, and definitely watch Shift's stream.
Yeah,
that's going to be going on.
That dude is insane.
And like grinder, bro. He is a grinder.
Obviously, he's got, they have like a whole team behind him, it's awesome. But obviously he's the one that's kind of, front charging.
He pushes it forward. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So if we don't see Shift on the desk next year, I'm going to riot.
Oh man. Riot. Some of these fans don't even know the amount. You should see his Excel documents. They are meticulous and they are massive. Like, wow. And it's all Challengers related, like stats, players, like all of it. Yeah. It's actually really impressive.
He's insane.
Yeah, get him on the desk. Hashtag shift to the desk, baby. Things you'll love to see. So yeah, keep your eye out for that. That's gonna be all the Challenger stuff. And we'll talk about a lot of that heading in the next weekend and recapping a lot of Challengers Champs. Because obviously, again, last year, what we saw is basically the top 2-3 teams from Europe, top 2 or 3 teams from the United States. You have the pro players that end up getting on teams in Rostermania on those teams. So like, we saw Insight and Standy last year playing great in Challengers Champs. We saw a lot of those guys playing really, really well in Challengers Champs last year. So you got to be paying attention to it to find the future stars of the CDL.
Up and comers.
And Shift's trying to get his stream to 10,000 views live. So that's what we're aiming for. So let's get Shift to 10K, baby, live.
We can do it. We can do it.
Yes, sir.
Look at the Toronto Ultra video where CleanX talks about the up and coming AMs. See when they're playing in the Challengers tournament.
Yeah,
look
Nasty
at them.
And Cruz. Facts. Well, Nasty's been insane.
Potential future stars.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I guess with that, we can head into our segment 1, which is going to be breaking down the wild weekend. Without further ado, let's talk about who was trash and who wasn't. Let's get into it.
Trash. Garbage.
Oh, baby. All right. So obviously this weekend was madness. One of, if not the best tournaments in COD history, with so many upsets, with crazy endings to maps. 0-0 on the clock in the OpTic Dallas series in the control. Not to mention, if you might have missed it, a full sail reverse sweep, the ultra reverse sweep, the Minnesota Magic, the meltdown in the grand finals, obviously capped off with that, with insane runs from everybody. FaZe lose both their matches. They go 0-2. Seattle makes a run. There's a ton to talk about, obviously, in this tournament. So, first of all, how hype was this event with fans back on LAN? Oh my goodness, I was hyped.
Fans changed the whole game. Like, just having fans makes it more interesting to watch. Like, even from home, watching the stream, having fans just makes it more interesting.
Yeah, literally.
COD needed this event. It needed this event at this time. It was. I think it completely revitalized it. I think people like didn't forget about LAN, but like, it was so hard to go this long without fans at LAN. Like, and like I guess I really did too. Like, everyone like knew that okay, it will be better, but like I think some people were like, is this dying? Like, is this gonna be like the way it is? But no, it's there, and like we just need fans there. We need that. Like, it's back, baby. So it was literally
so 15 months now, 16 months since fans were in an arena. And even when the fans were there before, it wasn't like this because it wasn't a major. It was the home series. And the fans were by no means what this was. This was packed.
This was amazing.
It was insane.
When they showed the crowd, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of people. Like,
well,
I was
literally
like,
same.
dang.
I like my best dreams for how many people were going to be there were blown away. I mean, it was amazing. And the hype, the loud, how loud it was and how loud it came through. Was great. They did a great job on Championship Sunday of like pumping in and how like the audio mixing worked with the fan noise. The
fan noise was so good. It's like,
it was really good. And it was actually pretty lined up, which I was shocked by. I couldn't believe they got that work in. And having listen-ins where the audio was on point was just great. So shout out to the whole team. It worked out great. Major 5 was awesome. The hype was real, and it all culminated with some insane Call of Duty matches. So just crazy. So I guess let's start with FaZe, just because it was kind of one of the big highlights early on of the tournament. Obviously, FaZe lost to the Rokkr in round 1 of the winners bracket. I mean, first of all bracket predictions were beyond chalked for
Gonzo
for this tournament. It wasn't even close. But obviously Rokkr beat FaZe, and then FaZe get knocked down, and they freaking lose to the Surge, which was mind blowing.
I could not believe
could you? Insane. So, first of all, like, what are your thoughts? What happened with that with FaZe?
I'll try and put this I feel like there was a certain maybe mental aspect to it, since FaZe, this is spacey stuff, but
okay.
FaZe,
start with the narratives.
They've been so dominant, and then they won the last major, which was also on LAN.
And they said that, and they didn't think they played well.
And I think people cared more about this major 5, other teams, more than maybe FaZe cared. Like, they cared, they wanted to win, of course, but their whole passion is being thrown towards champs, I feel like. Whereas,
I mean, it definitely is. They've already won this thing 3 times.
They get a sense of steam. They start going. FaZe doesn't seem like a team that gets steam. FaZe is just a solid train that
Seattle,
just goes.
This is their champs. This is their last go. So it's like,
yes,
there is that too,
And Rokkr had this underdog narrative that they were running with. So like they're really flying high on that. So I think FaZe will play much better come champs.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there's definitely part of that narrative, like for sure. I mean, like even in that first listen in, so I had a note of this because I was like, it was really interesting that like Arcitys, even in that first listen in, was like, he was really frustrated because they were losing in that first hardpoint on checkmate to Minnesota. And he was like, guys, like force him to come to us. Force him to come to us. And they weren't dictating the pace like they normally do. Like when you're finding their positioning and forcing the other team to make those mistakes, they were the one that were making the mistakes and pushing angles they didn't need to push, and Minnesota was taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely the case where no one expected Rokkr to do this, right? Like no one thought Rokkr was going to come out like this, and so when they were hit with Rokkr's right now full potential, apparently that they're insane.
Well, they hit stride, yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, whoa, like we can't do what we normally do. Okay, how do we rebound? How do we adjust here? And I don't think they could adjust in time. So then that sends them down, right? And then now I think they're kind of freaking out. I think it was a kind of a collapse of like, okay, what happened here? And then I'm sure I obviously have no idea, but like I'm sure this event with the fans back, that had to have played a role. It had to have. I mean,
obviously there is some sort of coincidence otherwise. I mean,
yeah.
Is there any potential narrative that like them not being the favorite in that Surge match threw them off a little bit? Like, oh, they're not here for us. Like
it very well could have, because I feel like if you're on FaZe and those players specifically, you kind of expect fans to be on your side.
Yeah.
And when they're not, it maybe just throws off your mental game a little bit. Like imagine if we went to an event and then nobody, like people are like booing OpTic and not cheering for OpTic and they want the other team to beat them. Like that might be like a big, I guess in a way, a wake up call. Like, whoa, okay. I thought I was going to get the hype, but I'm the one trying to be like repressed by these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's those aspects for sure. At the end of the day, they just didn't play well. I mean,
That's true too.
And like, whether that was because of the fans being there or being surprised that they weren't getting caught off guard, that they weren't the fan favorites in a match against the Surge, or, but even before that, they lost to, it's not like they didn't lose to the Rokkr. I mean, the Rokkr beat them in round one before they played the Surge. And like, I was just so surprised with how like normal they looked, and their loss to the Rokkr was the first time that they lost not in a game 5 on the whole year, which was insane.
That's a wild stat.
Yeah, they got 3-0, didn't they?
3-1.
3-1
by Rokkr.
Yeah. But just crazy. They're on a 4 hardpoint losing streak now too, or no, 6 hardpoint losing streak now too. So that's insane in itself. Or no, 5. They lost both to FaZe. So yeah, they're on a 6 hardpoint losing streak, that's insane too. So all of that combined, pretty mind-blowing. This was Simp's worst placing of his whole career too. So like all of that combined, I mean, Simp has only placed outside the top 4 one time in his whole career, and that was top 6, and that was the second tournament of his whole career at like CWL. What was that? Anaheim,
right before
they won
Miami.
Anaheim, I thought, right?
No, they won Miami.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day. So
yeah,
just crazy, like insane. Okay, so it's okay, I lied. They're on a 4 hardpoint losing streak. So yeah, because they beat the subliners. But
yes,
crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. So yeah, other thoughts on, FaZe, because it was just, I was mind blown.
Yeah, I think that's like the key. Like you said, you're surprised at just how like normal they looked, and like I think that's it. Was like they did look like not they looked human, basically. I guess is like what I'm trying to say. So if that's like the worst thing you could say is like they looked human, it's like, okay, I honestly think you can chalk this up as a pretty bad event, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't think there's reason to sound the alarms. I don't think there's reason to go crazy here. I think this was the time to do it. I think this was the time to lose.
I mean, if you're going to lose,
if you're going to lose, do it now, right before champs, where it's like, okay, you realize, okay, something's wrong here. Do we have a mental collapse? Are we doing something fundamentally wrong on the map? Figure it out now, where you have 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
They've now lost 3 of their last 4 matches.
Yeah,
they lost to OpTic in the last, or their second to last match of the stage in the groups, and then they lose to Rokkr, then they lose to Surge. They beat subliners in there too. So crazy.
Yeah.
Insane. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously, I think all of us expect them to bounce back, and we'll of course talk about them more heading into champs, about where we expect these guys to be heading towards champs for sure. But it was crazy, man. So as for, I want to talk about Dallas as well, just because of Dallas, and obviously they hadn't lost to OpTic in a hot minute, and for them to come out here and lose to OpTic like that after beating them twice at stage 4 major, I was really surprised. I really thought Empire was going to beat them, but OpTic just looked great. And obviously the Empire at the major. I told you,
OpTic was on the up.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I mean, again, the Rokkr, obviously they beat the Empire as well. And then Empire, they beat Thieves 3-1, and then they lost to OpTic 3-1 as well. So thoughts on this Empire team?
I think Shotzzy had a really bad game.
Well, Shotzzy had an awful series.
Yeah.
Or awful event.
I think that's a huge part of it. I think when you compare Shotzzy Vivid versus Scump and Envoy in that series, it was like, it had been like a difference of 50 kills. Like they dropped a deucer. Unfortunately.
Facts.
So that doesn't help.
He was double negative on the raid hard point.
Yeah, that doesn't help
Shotzzy?
when you've got your two pretty dominant subs doing that. And like to me, that was the biggest takeaway was they either had just a bad event or because like now we've seen Dallas have an amazing event and now a pretty bad event with Vivid on their team. So I guess what do you consider as their normal play? I don't know. Part of me thinks that seeing Shotzzy do that bad that this was an off event for them, but at the same time, maybe stage 4 was kind of a fluke too. Who knows?
I mean, people obviously, a lot of people were quick to talk about the fan effect with Dallas and that, Shotzzy playing in front of fans again and Illy and Vivid being like on, like the hated squad again here. Yeah. So I can see that, especially when you're playing against OpTic on LAN. I mean, is it coincidence that, OpTic beats Dallas for the first time when there are 3,000 fans there all rooting for OpTic? I mean, that's what gets interesting. I could see the narratives there, but in that Moscow hardpoint against Dallas, like there was like some legit like, what are they doing here? Like early on, there was like the rotation for P3 where Shotzzy like just completely screwed it up, and then there was like a point where Vivid like pushed into like I think it was P3 without anybody there for him, and I think it gave Dashy streaks, and then you're like, what was that? Like they weren't even communicating that Dashy was on streaks and that Dashy's hard aiming or L triggering the line of sight right there. Like Vivid cannot be pushing that. Yep. And he gave Dashy streaks, and suddenly, now they're raining him down, and it gets out of control real quick.
Oh man, Dashy was on one, bro.
Oh yeah,
he was so good.
Yeah, and that's where
he was so good.
And this is where you immediately are like, okay, here's the upside for OpTic, But then like you play against the more fundamental teams, like a fundamental team who's playing some pretty good COD like Toronto, and then suddenly they can't beat them, And it's just with OpTic, it feels like that teamwork works until it doesn't, like it's so hard to figure out what the rhyme or reason is for when OpTic isn't going to play together as a team.
Yeah, no, I think no for shout outs, by the way. On the flank, Zuma said no, or either Zuma or Ben, but they just said OpTic was such a plan A team. And if that plan A doesn't go right, they just collapse. Like they don't know how to rebound.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think that was last week on the pod where we were like, man, they really settled for like some really basic bomb plants on Moscow where you're like, that was so uncreative and like it caused for easy retakes. Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. They just don't get creative enough with certain plays, and they aren't good at like, okay, this happened, but the defense is giving us this. Oftentimes they don't do a good job of like capitalizing on that. I feel like the only map we've seen do that was Standoff.
I feel like I think it's a very mental thing with this team. Like they're very momentum based. So like when they do have the fans there and they're on LAN and then they're playing against the Empire where you got the blood feud or whatever.
Yeah.
Then that's when you really see the strongest OpTic. It seems like every time OpTic plays Empire, there's always something's happening there. Like OpTic really, really wants to win, and you can tell.
Yeah.
But then you see them play something else, and you're like, you can tell like the drive isn't the
level
same.
of intensity.
Yeah, the level of intensity isn't the same.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we saw some really good moments from OpTic this weekend, and we saw like an incredibly impressive Envoy at times and Dashy and that Seattle series where, they end up clutching up. Like there are some really clutch plays from the team, and that's where you're like, okay, this team, and like, after the Rokkr had beat FaZe and beat Dallas and then beat Toronto, you're like, oh my word. Like, and then OpTic beats Dallas. You're like, this is the time. Like
it is. Yeah, it was.
And for OpTic not to beat Toronto there, like it's hard for me to see a world where they like turn the corner, right? Like obviously Dallas wasn't playing like a top 4 team this event. So then they end up beating them because but Dallas had already lost to Minnesota. And then it's like the debate is like, okay, how good was Dallas actually playing this weekend then? That's what gets tough to say. And I mean, at least from my perspective, Dallas was not playing well. So it's like, it's harder to count this as a really impressive win from OpTic. you know, when all is said and done.
Yeah, they just can't break that top 4, top 3. They can certainly beat the majority of the league. That's no question. But
Right. Obviously, the outlier would be the FaZe win.
Yes.
But then now we've seen FaZe lose 3 of their last 4.
Exactly.
So then you're like, well, now how impressive was that win then? I don't know. So it's like whenever OpTic feels like they have that momentum going, and again, they finished top 3 in this event. It's not like they were bad, but it's just like we're talking about, can they win champs? Can this be the upside for them to come out in a tournament and win when it matters the most, when they're playing against the top 2 or 3 teams in the league? At the end of the day, the Rokkr won this tournament. So
which was so
anything is possible. And that's what we proved today. But something I talked about in the breakdown video today is that, I mean, with Toronto in second, Rokkr in first, at the end of the day, what's proven time and time again is that teamwork is key. And that's all that really matters, is how well do you play as a unit, as a squad, and can you fall back on those fundamentals when the pressure's on, and double down on your teamwork and double down on those things? Or is it like, does it take you to be ultra focused, to have the ultimate focus to play that fundamental defense? And if you're not fully focused, then you lose that and you go back to your more like ego challenging ways and it falls apart, you know? And the teams that have that down to where it's their nature to play together, so that when things are crazy and chaotic, they can fall back on that. Those are the teams that are going to be the most successful in a CDL with 12 teams in it, and you have to play the best COD you can possibly play to win.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's gonna be crazy. So, I mean, again, we could talk about all these teams all day long, but let's just talk real quick about we can save the bottom 4 teams like Surge and Paris and LAG, those guys, for our conversation with Rostermania, since they're eliminated officially now from the year. But let's talk about Rokkr and Ultra then, because this was the big kahunas. This was where it was all at.
Man.
I mean, that's the thing, dude. There's one side of me that's like, dude, I feel so bad for Toronto. But the other side of me, like, the hype's real, you know, for Rokkr. So there's kind of a two-sided coin here.
Yeah, like the mental fortitude of Rokkr.
Yeah.
To be able to come
thoughts
back.
On the whole freaking thing. Where you at with it?
Crazy. I'm going to be, I think Rokkr, and I think specifically Standy, might have found a level up during this.
It feels like it. It does.
It does feel like it, because just the way the consistency of the play it looked solid, and it didn't look like it was like flash in the pan. Like, it seemed like this could be a consistent thing that they can do. I still don't know if I'm fully convinced that's going to be the case for everybody on that team. I think Standy might have discovered something, but once...
Yeah, I could see it.
It's hard to say, but I'm not a full believer that they're like... I don't think they're going to win champs, basically.
Right. I mean, interesting. Well, I thought it was really interesting. Again, like, it's like... We saw the preface of this last week where we talked about their really impressive win against the Mutineers in the last match of Stage 3. And how good they looked in that map. And like they shut down the Mutineers. They 3-0'd them. They clutched up in around 11 on Moscow. They smoked them on the Garrison control. And you're like, holy crap, this is like the fundamental team focused Call of Duty that the Rokkr need to play to make a run. And we talked about that last week, but I just didn't think that they could do that on a consistent basis against FaZe, then Empire, then Ultra twice.
Yeah.
Like, what? And so for the fact that they pull it out like that was crazy. And also what's interesting is that, I mean, their run, again, where they kind of preface it with beating the Mutineers 3-0. I mean, the Empire had that really impressive win against the Mutineers in their last match of Stage 4, and then went on to go and finish second at the Major. So maybe beating Mutineers in your last match of group play is kind of the key, you know?
Could be.
You just got to smoke the Mutineers in your last match of group play, and then suddenly you're making the run at champs.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, Rokkr is definitely is now a team to be scared of. Like, there's 4 teams, like Ultra, Rokkr, Empire, FaZe, OpTic. So 5 teams you kind of have to worry about.
Yeah. I mean, at least and that's kind of like why I highlighted the whole teamwork thing, because it's like now the Rokkr and the Ultra have such a similar vibe, and it was so fitting that their series ends up going to a round 11 or a game 9, even though it went, even though it was the most odd way to go the distance. It's so fitting that it did, because the teams are so similar. All their success is based off the consistent teamwork, team play, breaking hills, consistent S&D setups, playing well in S Search and Destroy, having those like core maps to rely on. And I just think it's really fitting that these two teams played against each other in the grand finals, because they're built in that sense, and they have the very similar fundamentals in that way.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird, man. Rokkr put on an amazing show and they played amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like you said, Rex, it's like, I think everyone's minds are like, we still don't think they're going to win champs, even though they literally just like put on a clinic.
Well, because they gained steam, and like, you don't really feel like a team that won. Like, they haven't been like that great of a team until just recently. And then they gained steam beating FaZe. And now it's like they're full steam ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what's even tougher is that, like this, I mean, this obviously this feels exactly how Toronto won in stage 2, where you're like, wow, they caught fire. They figured out the key. They have their rookie on the team who played incredible, and the fundamentals, and you have a player like, Bance, and you have Major Maniac guys who haven't been as flashy in their careers. And they played really, really well. And you're like, can they really keep this up? And then stage 3, you're like, holy crap, they're legit. And the problem is that we're not going to have any more matches to figure out if the Rokkr are legit or not.
Nope.
So they're going to be such a wild card team. And, the Rokkr fans are going to be all in on their team. And they're going to be like, yo, we're finishing top 3. And then I'm so hesitant to buy in, but they played as fundamental
at the right time, though.
That's the thing. Did they peak, or did they peak one event too early? Like the Empire. Did the Empire peak one event or 2 events too early? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what gets something. So where are you at with it, Sam?
Yet.
What are your thoughts on the Rokkr?
I think they have a very strong chance now. I mean, you can't not have that that boost of confidence there. I think, like you said, this team is obviously not going to be crazy individually skilled like you see the FaZe, but Josh, like you said, it's which team can play as a unit the best. And if they continue to do this, I mean, why can't they win champs? They literally showed us that they can beat the best teams.
Beat FaZe, Empire, Ultra.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it,
And not to mention, again, winning from winners and being down 0-4, like
right. We haven't even specifically mentioned how insane that is.
No, like the mental fortitude to do that, to not completely break down and not completely give up.
Yeah,
that is a feat of its own. So I honestly wouldn't count these guys out. Like, wow.
I mean, again, it was ironic. I mean, we saw all the stuff about, attach and the ice with attach and how that all looked, obviously. And, the team's insane. I mean, that's facts. And like, I listened to their little comms video that they posted today, and like hearing like attach be like, yo, whatever happens, guys, I love you guys. Let's go out here. Let's try to prove them wrong. And like, Brian Saint was like, yo, guys, you have the opportunity here to make history. Let's do it. Like when they were down 0-4, he was like, you have the opportunity to make history. And you can't make these insane stories without having the insane lows. So let's do it. And and it was just a really cool narrative, and they made it happen. Like that apocalypse, when like you get to that point, and you're like, oh my word, like the Rokkr are 1 map away from being 1 map away, and you're like, oh goodness,
like, oh no,
this is insane. Like if the Ultra don't win this one, like, oh goodness, and then they win the apocalypse, you're like, oh no. My heart, again, like I said, my heart just felt so. It was like literally at the simultaneous time, so hyped for the Rokkr and so sad for the Ultra. Like seeing Kleenex like face down on the desk.
Oh,
like what did we just do?
Yeah. I think the timeline was just full of that. Like was like huge W, huge congrats to Rokkr, but man, are you gutted for Toronto Ultra?
Yeah.
They were one map away from winning that. Like,
Though, do you think people are going to be game planning against Rokkr now?
See, that's the thing. And like maybe you don't underestimate him as much now, and that's the narrative for why Rokkr don't, find their success like they did in this tournament.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to imagine no one was really paying that much attention to Rokkr.
No.
And
now
then
you got to see him play
win.
9
It's
maps.
like, well, okay, now we're going to be watching all their VOD.
And you
We're
have
going to
a
learn
lot of
all their
VOD now.
tendency. Yeah. And whereas everybody's game planning FaZe all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And honestly, Ultra is like the one team where they're always in that top category. And then people are game planning for them. And they're still are putting up the results.
Right. And that's
which
why,
is
like,
extremely
at this point,
impressive from Ultra.
Yeah. I mean, like heading into the champs, I mean, there's no teams I have higher faith in than FaZe and Ultra. I mean, they've proven it time and time again that they have the fundamentals to be great. Obviously, FaZe losing this one if I had to put a bet on who's going to finish top 2 or top 3, I mean, you have to bet on the Ultra. This team, the fundamentals are there. This team's proven it time and time again. And it doesn't matter how much VOD these teams have on them. They're going to play good COD. And
they're
Insight's an
always
X
up
factor.
there.
He's just a unit. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, I have so much faith in the Ultra, man. And people are always like, oh, of course he picks the Ultra. But like, dude, the fundamental COD, man, there's a reason why they're in the finals again here. Like, they're legitimately that good. So that's just the thing at the end of the day.
They are really good.
Camera.
Yeah, we'll see. So, man, there's just a lot to go over there. Obviously, we can talk about this all day, but
What are you guys thinking of Insight?
I mean, he's insane.
I mean, I feel like he's kind of something weird's happening with him. I feel like recently.
What do you mean?
In
He
these
had
past
an
few
insane
games.
major, though.
But I think some of his positioning is just weird sometimes.
Well, I mean, okay, that's fair.
I don't know. I question it. I think question it.
I mean, I think he's still an incredible player. You can't say he's not.
I'm not saying he's not an incredible player, but I think he's inadvertently maybe doing some things that is costing the team a little bit.
I don't know. I wouldn't say so. I mean, statistically, obviously, when you look at like, KD and crap in the finals, I mean, Insight was the only player who actually like statistically played just as well in the second half of the series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kleenex, the first 4 to the last 5 for like Kleenex and Bance was like night and day, and Cammy. I mean, really all 3 of them, night and day, and like that just didn't come through in the back half. And like also what's interesting is the back half was like you only have 1 hard point in there versus the first half where you have 2, and that can matter as well. But I still think the Insight this team of 4 for Toronto is just fine, and they'll be fine heading into champs. But and I think Insight definitely still deserves Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
I mean, Stanley made a pretty strong case. Stanley looked amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. But season long, I mean, Insight has been
it's in his season long.
undeniable.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Any other thoughts there?
I think they're going to be, like you said, I think they're for sure going to be a top 3 team. I have no doubts that they're going to figure it out by champs, and it's going to be a dang close one.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
there's a good team.
The last team that we got to talk about before we head into our like little Rostermania segment would be the old Florida Mutineers.
Oof.
This team continues. How many times have I said it that they are the enigma of the CDL and that they're unpredictable? Like they're the definition of unpredictable. You open up the dictionary, you scroll through, you go to the U's, scroll down, boom, Florida Mutineers, unpredictable. But again, they come through, and who is it again that stuffs them and ends their fun? It's the freaking New York Subliners in a reverse sweep, nonetheless.
For the 3rd time, right?
Good job,
my
Subliners,
word.
by the way.
Unreal,
I'm pretty
man.
sure I predicted those matches.
Did you know?
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, I don't know. Did you?
I don't remember.
Wait, did we have some bets? I can't remember. We had some bets, and I forgot to look this up before we went. We definitely had 2 bets, and I don't remember what they were. Crap.
I don't think they ended up happening, the matches.
Did they not? Dang it.
We'll have to go back because
Yeah, I'm pissed. Now we're going to have to throw it to next year or next week. But anyway, Florida, again, I talked about this in my breakdown video today as well, but like their communication and their teamwork just breaks down when it's a must win. Like when the pressure's on, those things just break down. And again, obviously against the subliners, it went the distance. It went to a round 11 on standoff. So it's not like the sky's falling for him, but like every time you feel like you have a little bit of faith in this team, it falls apart. And my question is, and we'll talk about this kind of, maybe this can help us segment kind of into our Rostermania talks a little bit, or, you know, pre-game. But like, what's the cause here? And what stems the communication issues?
To be honest, I feel like they need like a hype man or something along those lines. Like, they seem like very, I don't know, level-headed individuals.
I kind of think Havoc is that person, though.
I think he tries to be, but I don't think it. I honestly feel like it might be just like some of the personalities just aren't that type.
I mean, honestly, I might go the other direction with it though, because like when you get those listenings, you hear like Skyz and Havoc getting hyped. The thing is that sometimes I think both of them almost get like too loud, like, and then the comms can get lost, and then things get frantic, like, because I'm blanking on which listening it was. I think I have it in my notes somewhere, but one of the listenings, I was like, my goodness, like Havoc is, I mean, Moscow.
I was thinking it was the checkmate, because the checkmate Havoc was like yelling, screaming.
Or maybe it was. Yeah.
It was so loud. And even like I think it was
Oh yeah.
Merc was saying like, holy cow, he's like 10 decibels above everyone else.
Oh yeah, because that's when he also talked about the comms getting mixy and wasn't sure exactly how that could play out too. Yeah, and I was like, because we had talked about that last week about just their comms, and it seemed like that it was getting too frantic in the big moments. Mm-hmm. And then I thought that that's a good call for Merc there to kind of, you know, highlight that with that listening. And so that's kind of my note right here. And
we saw it too. They almost lost that map.
Yeah,
they were up like over 100, and then it was like 250 to 230 something, I think. Yeah.
250, 207.
Yeah.
And they were up big at the beginning of that map too. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like, there is some sort of disconnect there, and maybe they just need that guy. Like, you know, usually we'll hear that either it's like Arcides or, you know, for OpTic, it's usually Formal, who's like, yo, calm down, guys. Let's like, yo, chill.
Yeah.
And let's play it slow, play patiently, play together, and regain a little bit. And right now the Mutineers just kind of lose that, and it costs them big time.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why I think Havoc was overall a good thing for them. And just because like you are increasing the level of comms and overall like energy, but at the same time, maybe he's not as good of a compliment to Skyz as he could be, just because they both get really frantic on the comms, and maybe you need a guy who's a little bit more like low key on the comms, even though he can get hyped.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of sounds like they're feeling like they're almost always on the back foot, and like there's like a confidence issue there, because it sounds more like panic is coming through the comms more than like, you know, this is the direction, like a strength in your decisions,
the strategy and the plan and the small talk that you need to have.
Yeah. Whereas more you're just worried.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that's where I'm going to be interested to see kind of their direction, like heading into Rostermania and what that could look like with the roster. So again, we'll talk about the subliners too in the Rostermania talk too. So I think we can get with that. I think with that said, I think we could probably just head into our Rostermania talk and get this thing going. So without further ado, let's play a game.
Hello, you play to win the game.
Alrighty, so this game's gonna be pretty fun. So how we're basically gonna go we're tier listing Call of Duty Pros this time around, but it's not gonna be as spicy as my normal tier list here. You know, what we're doing is we're gonna be basically categorizing players in Rostermania Outlook, and heading into champs, kind of having this conversation about which players might need champs to kind of give them that boost for Rostermania, whether or not they're going to be staying on their current team, and kind of talking through some of the potential outcomes of what Rostermania could look like. Because we've already heard reports, that some teams are, already trying to figure out rosters. Like Slack did mention that Florida is already pretty confident in their roster for next year. And you'd expect some of these rosters to maybe stay and which ones are going to not stay. So that's what the game is today. We're just going to be straight up categorizing players about how likely they are to leave their team. And we might be able to, maybe theorize a little bit about what these situations might look like for these players as well. So, and we'll probably talk about, whether or not these guys have odds of finding a team if the guys are leaving their teams next year. So, all right, so without further ado, this is what we're looking at here for the little tier list. It's kind of the same format that I use for the tier list, except our categories are locks, the lock that they're staying, likely staying, 50-50, whether or not they're going to be staying. They need champs to kind of champs will decide. So we have kind of two categories here, 50-50 and then champs. So we'll see how that works. We weren't exactly sure how to play with that one. And then unlikely that they stay with their team and then they're leaving. They're not going to be there. So the first player up on the board here is Pristini.
Oh,
and
baby.
talking about what this looks like for Pristini and the situations here. Obviously, the Surge are out of this, that they're donezo. And I don't know if you want to maybe try to pull up other Surge. If we want to do we want to go team by team and go that way, or how do you want to do it? Because it is kind of maybe easier to have some certain team conversations. So, thoughts on Pristini?
Man, I gotta say, unlikely
That he stays with the Surge.
Yeah. Just based on
I would probably
Surge's
agree.
troubles the past 2 years, Surge, I think, is going to want to do a whole kind of overhaul. But man, the way they played this last major on LAN, they showed that they have it in them.
Right. Yeah. I know,
Yeah,
that's
might
the
have been
thing.
too
It's
late.
it comes down to does Octane stay? And then if he does, how does the SMG duo look like? The other factor is that Pristini would still have a 1+1 contract. So there is a world where they would just re-sign him and then try to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
Usually teams would do that when they know that a player is going to be on a team next year because they want to make their money back, and they want somebody to pay out and buy out their contract. So the question is does Surge think that Pristini would for sure get a team next year? And then, because they don't want to be the ones holding the bag, quote unquote, with Pristini on as a sub, as a substitute. So that would be kind of the question, I guess.
Yeah, man. Pristini historically has always been that guy that's do we leave him? Do we drop him? Or it's such a hard place to be. But yeah, man, they showed up and he was playing well this major. So it's probably unlikely, but I wouldn't be surprised if this team of four went a run at it for with
After
it all
how that
being
went?
LAN. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
think it's possible, but it's I just think that Octane knows that he could get, now that he's off the probably going to be off the contract, that he could get a legit team. So if you want to skip just straight up to Octane, then we can just go straight to Octane and go from there because
Do it.
so Octane, I would say it's unlikely that he returns as well, but I wouldn't say it's a lock that he leaves because I think there would be a world where the Surge would be like, yo, we want to build around you, pick your team, and we'll do that.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm the Surge, I think that's what I would that be what you would do?
I'd probably keep him. He's your content. He's doing content.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
The thing is, he has to choose you now. Because last year it was you're staying, build your team. Now it's, okay, do you want to stay? Because we want you to stay. So that's what gets kind of interesting, is kind of figuring out exactly what that would look like. But I think it's more likely that Octane leaves, either goes LAT or, finds another squad, the hot takes, whether I've seen some people think this dude Formal's going to retire and he's going to go to OpTic, these hot takes on Reddit,
Would that be something? He's back on OpTic.
Yeah. Could you
Well, here's
imagine?
the thing. What options would he have?
I know that's the thing.
team-wise?
I
He
don't know.
goes to Paris, London, Surge. LAG.
Yeah, so I think that'll be the fun thing about this conversation. It'll help set the baseline for our conversations after champs about like, okay, how crazy is Rostermania going to be this year? You know, and then like kind of weaving through the weeds about these players. So, okay.
Octane on Mutineers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is that possible? Very, you know, I mean, who knows what that could look like. So Gunless would then be the next guy up. So thoughts on Gunless?
Unlikely. Man. I feel like the Surge team is kind of a team that is going to just blow up and then start over. It's hard for me to think that they're going to stick with any one person.
That's fair.
I guess I might kind of consider this likely where he does stay.
I agree.
Because
he doesn't get a lot of, in the past we've heard he doesn't get a lot of contracts.
Yeah. Here's my thing too is I think he still has a stigma to him of people don't want to like really play with him. 2 contracts, you know, I do.
He signed this year.
He signed this year. And then B, I think that like he's a player that obviously has skill and that Surge would love to keep. And like he might just say, hey, I think this would be the best chance for me to be on a certain roster would be the Surge and still be able to get, you know, a few players, say Pristini and Octane leave.
I actually think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I think it's like, I would maybe, are you down to go 50-50?
I'm definitely down to go 50-50.
Because I feel like likely doesn't feel right, but 50-50 makes a lot of sense. So then Classic would be the last guy, another guy who got traded this year. So I don't exactly know what his contract would look like because he must have signed this year then, heading into this year. So probably it's still a 1+1. But at least in my head,
I'd probably say unlikely.
I think he's gone.
I would almost say leaving. But Rex, your whole point that they might potentially, there's a world where they might run it back.
I don't know. Surge gives me like very like family-esque vibes. Like I think they try to build like a some sort of like, I don't know, personable culture. Like they don't seem like a team that just like blows up and restarts. Like they clearly kept it with Octane and like
you could see a world where they just re-sign everybody and then maybe try to trade them.
Or like I don't know, they could maybe run it back with the team they had. I don't know.
I think he's gone, man. I don't think they want him there.
Obviously, we're between the unlikely that they stay or for sure leaving categories. For you audio listeners out here, I'm down to like full send with the leaving, but I do see the argument where, you know, one could say they're staying. So we can knock out some of these fast ones real quick with FaZe. They're obviously all locks to stay.
FaZe will lock.
I need to find these guys in the list here, but they're obviously all locks to stay. I mean, Simp, lock to stay. Is there any world where any of them ever changed? Is there any possibility? I mean,
if anything, I would say no.
I would have said Celium. I would have said if there's a possibility, a remote possibility, it'd be Cell. But I think they're all locked though. I think they're all locked.
Right. I would say so too. Because it's like Arceus is still on contract. He'd have the 1+1. So, you know, that would make it messy if you're trying to trade him. And then all of that, like it just makes so much sense that they'd all be locks to be there. So Paul X, London Royal Ravens is up next. And the thoughts on this squad. So
unlikely.
Really? I would
you don't think they're going to build around him?
No, they're pretty heavily invested in Shawnee, I feel like. Paul X was kind of like, he wasn't going to be there. He wasn't even be on the team. And then he just did really well in NA champs. They needed people desperately. They pulled him up.
But like they chose
everyone else is from Europe except for him.
They chose to keep him with all the roster moves. They chose to keep him.
And he would still be on contract.
Yeah.
Well, they could choose to 1+1 him.
Will the players want to stay with him?
I don't know. Maybe
I
not.
I guess I don't know his vibes or anything, but I think you brought a lot to that team. And again, what's hurt this London squad is it's hard to judge really anyone except for I think Afro was by far the most outstanding player on this team.
Afro is a unit. He's staying.
He's for sure
Afro's
staying.
So we can probably try to I can try to find Afro. I mean, he is.
Yeah,
I would say a lock
he's a
to
lock.
stay.
He,
I mean-
he had to have signed a
Yeah.
To,
Or-
1+1. This dude's a lock to stay. I mean, he has showed out.
That pic of Afro looks like he's got like super long hair on my screen.
Well, I think he's got like the little Afro going, but then there's a dude in front of him.
There's a
so
dude in
kinda
front
like,
of him.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, is that? Who is that? That's Afro.
Yeah, that's why.
But
So,
yeah.
I think Afro's legit insane.
I kind of want to put Paul X unlikely. I don't know what you guys think, but
I think it's either 50-50 or likely. Rex,
I'll
where
do
would you lean?
50-50. 50-50 I feel better about.
I
You
think
know how
Alex
it
is
is,
gone.
man, in the scene is Europe versus NA. Like they don't get along when they team together. Like they just never work.
I guess.
I mean, I get that, but there is like an aspect of it where like he really has played well.
Mhm.
Man,
But Shawnee played well.
Right.
So then, like, I think we know I think we all kind of think Alex will go in the unlikely column.
I think he's gone, man.
Yeah, the thing would be the contract would be the only thing. So like,
Sure.
that's why I think contractually, I would say he's in the unlikely category just because he did sign this year. I think Shawnee's unlikely.
Really? I feel like Shawnee was their guy. Shawnee is their head figure.
I don't know because like
I think Zero is coming on this team.
really, but they cut him.
Oh wait, you're right. I was thinking he was still. So
Yeah,
then,
he
like,
got dropped, right?
So then
Yeah,
who,
he's not on
who
contract.
does Zero go to then? Because like he's like for sure he thinks he's for sure going to be in the league next year.
I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, because we've heard the rumors about Pred as well. I mean, there's a world where he could go to Paris. Pred,
I mean, he could end
Zero.
up back on Ravens. I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible, but
Interesting. But yeah, no. Shawnee.
Well, wasn't there some rumor that like Zero and Shawnee they kind of didn't get along or something?
I don't know. I mean, where would you put Shawnee then? Because I would go unlikely, but I could settle for 50-50.
I mean, I'm
50-50.
50-50 then.
Yeah.
Like he is there, and they've kind of like said from the beginning of this whole organization, like Shawnee is their staple.
Yeah, it just he's been underwhelming the past 2-3 stages, though. I mean, really, since Paul came in,
He hasn't been that bad.
he's been underwhelming. He just hasn't been a playmaker. He's been okay. He does what he needs him to do, but like I just don't think Shawnee's like a championship player. Like we've seen Afro, he comes in immediately and you're like, oh my word, this guy is legit. Like he just pops off for like the insane 2-3 pieces. You're like, there's no normal player does that, and like we just haven't seen Shawnee do that much this year. We've seen Paul do it in S&D. Respawn's been iffy, and so I could see a world where Paul doesn't come back. I could see a world where Shawnee doesn't come back, and you build just around Afro.
Yeah.
So Shawnee's interesting because his contract would have been the 1+1. So it's like, we'll see.
The thing is that Ravens team's gonna want a leader.
Yeah. And
So
that's
either
what
they bring in like a player like Zero, or they bring in Shawnee, or they're gonna want a veteran.
Yeah, I agree. That's what gets interesting. So the subliners are up next. So Asim's on the board here. Thoughts on Asim? I feel like he'd be a lock.
I think lock or likely with a more leaning lock.
I hope the team stays together.
Oh,
So I'll do lock. But with the amount of like kind of turmoil that this team's gone through, things have now become shaky.
I agree. I mean,
Do you think they've all turned
obviously
on Clay?
Asim's a fan favorite. That's the question. Okay, here let's have them all. So
I think Asim's amazing for that team, and he does a lot for that roster. But
yeah, I mean,
Hydra's a lock.
maybe
Jinx.
Asim we go like maybe it's a champs column.
Hydra is a lock.
Is Asim a champs column? Because we should have put champs in like its own thing.
Probably should have
Because it's like it feels wrong to have them like
in the middle.
in the middle. Okay, we fixed it now, so we got the champs at the bottom. So champs is kind of like its own thing. and like the kind of the default category now. So I mean, okay, Rex, what are your thoughts about ASIM then with champs? Because
I feel like this whole subliners roster, with the amount of, crap they've had to go through, now Clay leaving, and now they're not looking as hot, but we did see glimmers of like, they still have that potential there. They were set back, you could tell, but you could still see that they still had a lot of upward growth that was happening and could still happen. So I feel like
if
Chance
they
going to be
go
a big
0-2
factor
at
for
champs,
this team.
what do you think? If they lose to OpTic, then they lose to, I don't know if they play the Mutineers or Thieves. Then if let's just say they go 0-2.
I mean, also kind of depends how well they play, how close the series were. I mean, ASIM wasn't the original man supposed to be on this roster, but you can tell that he's become part of the heart and soul of this team.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone, I think Mac and Diamond Con would be. Mac is for sure a champs category.
Yep.
I think ASIM is in the likely staying category.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I feel like if we put ASIM in champs, that means like he's likely not gonna come back. I think it's very likely he is coming back. So you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think Mac's a for sure champs guy. Because like if they finish top 4 at champs, then I think you maybe run it back with at least for sure Hydra, ASIM, and Mac. And then maybe you're trying to improve the main AR. Like I would say Diamond Con's either unlikely or for sure leaving.
I'd put him unlikely.
I'm cool.
I'm down to go. I'm down to go. I don't know if I have Diamond Con. We might have to make another edit here.
Unless New York makes like a crazy run. But I would say Diamond more unlikely, just given
I'm down
he
to put
hasn't had
Diamond
enough time.
unlikely as well. So I think that's gonna be a really interesting situation for Mac, because it's like I do see a world. Yeah, like I agree, and he's on a contract here too. So, if things don't work out for him at champs, I think Mac's gone. But I think it does come down to champs. All right, so Awakening and the Florida Mutineers are up next. This is interesting because obviously Awakening, same situation. This is his second year on the team, so he's looking for a new contract.
Part of me wants to say he's gone.
But like, Awakening's got a lot of respect, Well,
people see him as a good player.
People see him as a really good player.
The thing is, do you believe that Skyz and Awakening for sure want to play together? I think this is a champs. This is champs. If Skyz and Awakening finish top 3 at champs together, then I think they stick on Florida.
Yeah.
This is probably a good champs pick.
Yeah.
Are all 4 of them on champs? Would you put Skyz as likely staying? Would you put
I think Neptune is likely.
Neptune? Because of the contract?
Again with Rookie and the contract. I think he's likely staying.
I think Skyz could be a 50-50 just because I would put him likely. I think Mutineers are going to want him, but I think Skyz may not want to be at Mutineers.
Yeah, or like he has an offer from another team and is like, oh yeah, I need to take that. Like it may not be like I don't want to be on a Mutineers, but it might be like, yo, I just got offered to be on this team. Like I'm down.
Yeah, because he's not going to want the same team.
Well, and like that's the thing too. Like this squad, do you ever see them like interact outside of the game? No. I don't think they like each other.
They're weird.
Possible.
Like they're just like antisocial with each other is what the vibe I get.
I mean, Neptune and Awakening are kind of interesting characters.
Definitely.
Skyz is pretty chill with everybody.
I guess.
And Havoc's pretty chill, but he seems like he is sort of more of an outsider out of like the main core of clicky COD pros, like mainstay COD pros.
Yeah.
I mean, Havoc feels like an unlikely, right?
I don't know. They honestly could even try forming a team around him, but
I'm down to go.
Because they dropped him before, and then eventually they brought him back, and they saw improvement when they brought him back.
Yeah, let's do Awakening.
They're elite. If they get rid of Havoc, they're getting rid of I think they get rid of at least 2 players.
Man, that's what's interesting. Yeah, I know. Man,
I think Havoc is unlikely, right?
Havoc's unlikely for sure.
Yeah.
But then the question is, I think Neptune's likely.
Neptune's likely.
And then Skyz and Awakening, I think, are champs. Because it's like if they finish top 3 at champs, then suddenly they're like, okay, we're keeping this core of team and we're going to try to make something happen here on the Mutineers. But if we don't, and we finish top, like outside the top 6 again, like we lose, maybe you win one and you lose, or you lose just right away, then suddenly you're like, this team's chalked. Like we are not playing together next year. So I'm down to put them all in champs, but where would you put them? If there wasn't a champs category, where would you put them? I would put them on both on unlikely.
Well, I think one of them stays.
Interesting. You think you do think they break up though?
Yeah, I do.
I was going to say, I think Skyz would be likely and then Awakening would be unlikely.
Interesting.
I think they want Skyz over Awakening.
Well, I think the average COD pro sees Skyz as more of like a I want to be his teammate type guy. Like Skyz is gonna have a lot more opportunities though outside of the Mutineers, which is kind of like where I lean that maybe Awakening is more likely to stay. But just even though
Skyz also their face, like their poster boy. So
but
Skyz is more
guaranteed
likely
a spot, like 100% guaranteed a spot next year. If there's no expansion, even if there's no expansion teams, Awakening, even though he's insane, may not have like the connections with the other COD pros to be guaranteed a spot. But that's where I think he'd be more likely to stick with Neptune and then build some sort of team around them too. But we'll see. So Temp is up next. The Paris guys are up next. Temp, Aqua, Zap, the whole squad.
Temp leaving.
Skrapz.
Leaving.
Would you say all of them are leaving?
Yes.
I would say almost all of them are a lock to leave. Is there a world where they don't?
It's got to be right.
They're going to blow up. They did it last year. They blew up. Paris will blow up again this year, I think.
Unless you want to build around Aqua.
That's the only case that I could see is Aqua you could maybe put up to unlikely.
Yeah. I could also see that's what's tough. I mean, yeah, I think it's probably the safest play just to put them all probably on leaving.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, well, safe, I guess, like the most likely option.
Yeah.
But like, again, with the Pred news and like, it seems like Pred would be most likely to go to Paris and, you know, those situations, we'll see. But I think it's probably most likely that all 4 of them leave. So we can stay with that for now. Shotzzy, lock. And I mean, is the full team of Empire a lock though? Is Crim a lock?
Crim's a lock.
I would say Crim's a lock.
Unless Crim retires.
No,
the thing is there will be some contract things here. Like, what if Shotzzy deep down doesn't want to play with Crim? Is that possible? Because I feel like it is.
So then who they keep, Shotzzy or Crim?
That's a good question.
Probably Shotzzy.
I think they keep
probably
Shotzzy.
I mean,
then they bring Clay back, you know, so.
Then you bring Clay back? Clay, that's possible. That's very possible.
I honestly think they're going to try and keep the whole team together. It's a matter of whether the team wants to all stay together in the end.
Did the Oracle want to stay together? Like, yeah.
If it's up to Astro, it would be the whole team locked. But
that's the thing, though, is if this team doesn't finish top, like let's say they finish outside the top 4 at champs, though, someone's going to be pissed.
Yes.
One of the 4 is going to be pissed, and it's going to be either Crim or Shotzzy.
I think they're all going to be pissed.
Well, they'll all be pissed, but like one's going to make a decision like, I'm not playing with you guys anymore. And it's either going to be Shotzzy making the decision or it's going to be Crim making the decision. And it feels like Shotzzy and Illy will stick together, right?
Yeah, I think so.
At least it feels like it. But again, Shotzzy will have an offer from every single team in the CDL. So that's the thing is like,
I think he's got the bag.
I don't think any of them are locks. I think all of them are likely, but none of them are locks.
I think they'll stay together.
I think
only person I see is
lock.
Vivid, honestly. Vivid is the one that gets moved down, but he's proven himself. It's just a matter of they want a different flavor.
I'm cool with doing Crim, Vivid, Illy as likely. I think Shotzzy's a lock.
That like,
yeah, it's fine with
if
me
Shotzzy
too.
wants to not play with them, then Hastro would be like, all right, we're wiping house. You're the guy.
Like, especially with his history of like Huke, like I think
when he finds a guy he wants to be loyal to.
I think so.
I mean,
Yeah.
Crim's been such a brand for them, but like maybe Hastro doesn't want to be the villains. You know, maybe
think
Hastro would
so.
rather not be the villain, and Crim is going to be the
Mhm.
villain wherever he goes.
Yeah.
No shot though, dude. Like this team, I think, staying together. Only person I can see moving out is Illy.
Interesting.
Or no, I'm sorry, not Illy, not Illy.
Vivid?
Vivid. Yeah, I think Vivid. I think
mean,
Illy lock,
again, that's what,
Shotzi
I
lock,
think these
Crim
guys are
lock.
all likely, but I don't know. I just don't think I can say any of them are locks. Because again,
Even
all it
Shotzi?
takes. I'm down to say Shotzi's a lock because I think that argument makes sense that it's going to come
Yeah.
down to again, this is a world where they don't finish top 4 at champs. They're like they're
Mhm.
5th or 6th, top 6.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you know, you're like, okay, you know, like one of them's going to pull a diva move. Either it's going to be Crim or Shotzi, and one of them's going to say, I want a new team.
Mhm.
And then suddenly now Hastro has to make a decision. So that's why I would say they're likely to stay, but there's a world where they don't.
Yeah.
But
I'm down with that.
all right, cool. Alrighty.
TJ.
TJ's an interesting one. I don't know.
I think he's gone.
Hmm. Well, interesting guy on the list here. Let's move him down the list.
Oh gosh.
All right. Toronto. Are they all locks to stay?
They've
Is this a
gotta be
4
locks.
spot lock to stay?
I think they're a lock.
Is
want
there a world where one of them's like, we can get nasty on the team? We can get one of these European guys on the team. Is Bance the only one that's not a lock? You know,
I think Bance is likely.
likely.
All three are the other 3 are locks.
I would lean that way as well. Because I mean, Bance was on the team last year. So it's like, you know, there's a world where that could not be the case.
But Bance is the leader of this team. Like,
I mean, that's
What
why
if-
we're still putting him in likely. You know,
What
like
if
he's-
Zero comes on for Bance?
That feels like
Does that
a
feel
little
wrong?
unlikely, right?
Could be.
dude, I don't think they're making roster changes. They're so good. You can't make a roster change if you get 2nd or 3rd. Like, that's stupid. That's
Right.
amateur scene stuff.
I mean,
Ultra kept their roster from last year.
right.
I think they'll do it
keep-
again.
But like, would you call it a lock or would you just call it likely? Because that's what I'm saying is I think those 3 are locks. But then for the sake of the game we're playing, I would say there's a world where if like, let's say some player wants to come onto this team, then maybe they don't bring Bance back.
But here's the thing, you got to think about, will these players want to stay on the team? For some reason, I feel like Kleenex is a guy that would not want to be on the team again and go somewhere else.
Really? But
Cammy
Kleenex,
even,
no,
maybe.
because Kleenex and Insight, they want to play together. Because
Yeah,
Insight got
that's
brought
why I
on
think the
because
whole team's
Kleenex were
locked.
teammates on Singularity. So it's like they want to play together. The debate would be Bance or Cammy. Because I think Kleenex and Insight are locks to stay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the only person that could be would be Bance, but even then, he's still likely.
it seems unlikely. Yeah. So I'm saying, where would you put him in likely? I'd put him in likely.
Likely. Yes.
All right. You outvoted Rex.
Okay.
I'm looking for, who am I looking for? Cammy here? Looking for Cammy.
The Camster.
Cammy.
But yeah, so while we're looking for Cammy, Kenny is up next. We got the LAT squad.
Mhm.
Is Kenny a lock?
Likely.
Is the whole team likely? No.
No, not the whole team, but I think Kenny is likely.
Slasher's interesting to me too because
Slasher's very interesting.
he was benched.
Schlasser's
Let's
chance.
not forget he was benched.
Yeah. That's true.
Does Slasher want to work with JCap?
Man.
I think Slasher is champs. I think he's the champs column.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm down to go that way. I mean, is Draza a likely as well then?
I want to say
Or would Draza
It's-
try to go somewhere else?
it's weird because if you're the player's perspective on Thieves and like you've been not dropped,
Draws
you've
is
been
likely.
benched. You've
Nobody
been
wants to
benched
leave
multiple
100 Thieves.
times. But does it change when like you are dispensable?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, John is also really interesting too then, you know? Suddenly, like, that gets really, really interesting with John.
John 50-50 for me.
I think he's likely because I think he wants, like, especially if they don't win, I think he knows he's still kind of like that pro that like went AWOL.
One veteran will want him.
Do you think this is the era of Rostermania, like where teams decide to keep their players even if they get like a top 6 or a top 8 and try and grow?
That's possible?
Because if you're putting John and leaving?
No. I had to get him the right size.
Because we can't put them all like in likely, because I think it's like somebody on that Thieves roster has to be lower than likely.
I agree. I would say John's 50-50.
Yeah,
and then Slasher. But the thing is John and Slasher like are they a duo? You know,
Nah.
like is it champs for both of them?
I would
Maybe champs for both of them. I like that's an okay assessment. I
think for sure Slasher champs. I think John would want to stay if he could.
Yeah,
Considering like they like brought him on, and again like his stock may not be as high as he'd want to at this point in the season.
right. That makes sense. I don't know. I would lean. Let's stick with champs. I think, but I mean they could both go in 50-50 probably, but they're definitely nowhere near locks.
Yeah.
All right. LAG. Is this a full wipe for the
This
squad?
is a full wipe. There's
All of
no
mental.
Quadra kill. Yes, mental.
oh, shoot.
Oh man, you're making LOL references.
I mean, it's got to be right. Like it's got to be a full wipe.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense. Like, obviously, there's a lot that went wrong with the squad. The thing is that the contract situation would be the only kicker. You know, where like maybe
Mental.
they don't.
Yeah,
But with mental especially, so I could see a world where I'm willing to put mental in unlikely but he might just be a sub on the team. Like he might not. He would be on the academy still.
Well, yes, yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is like there could be that the academy team could still be a thing, and like they still want to like make the academy team good.
Are we saying leaving the starting lineup? Because if that's the case, I definitely think he's leaving the starting lineup.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm down to stick with that. Well, Huke is here. We can move him down.
Heyo.
All right, OpTic, all locks.
Yeah.
Is there any world?
I mean,
only
retirements are the only thing.
Retirement would be the only thing. Formal and Scump.
If one of them retired.
Yep.
I mean, do you think there's a world where Formal's like, I want to try something different? Because he's done it before.
No, he said on podcast that he's like pretty much here to stay now.
I think him and Scump are a duo.
At this point, they're ride or die.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we're seeing the upside for him. But it's like, if that's the case, like, then, man, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Again, I think it's just going to be like retirement. I think if Scump doesn't get
You're
what he
telling
wants
me, if this team, let's say, like, okay, well, they're probably going to beat New York. But let's say they lose in the second round to FaZe, and then they get knocked out by like Florida or the Rokkr in top 6. Like, you're telling me there's not a world where one of them gets pissed and they leave?
I think in that world, Scump retires and they try someone else.
I don't think anybody gets removed unless they retire. If there was anybody, I think it's Envoy
to leave.
Yeah, but I think he's a lock also.
The thing is, that's the thing though. Is like if you're the brand, like if you're Envoy, it's like you'll stick it out with this roster just because of the brand. Like the
Envoy's the poster child. He's the future.
That's the problem, is that it doesn't feel like this team ever breaks up. So I'm down to put them all in locks, but like, is there a world where this doesn't work? I think it is if they blow it at champs, but I don't think it's very likely. And so I'm down to put them all in locks because of that.
Dashy could leave too, yeah.
Right, and Dashy could leave as well, but to be fair, again, contract situation with Dashy seems unlikely too. So all right, I gotta get these guys real quick, and then we'll have them all in locks. And okay, so Menace, we got 2 teams left, 1 team left. and it's Priesta. Oh, I forgot to put Diamond Con. Where did we say Diamond Con is? Oh, never mind.
Unlikely, I think.
We got him. Never mind. I lied. All right, so we got the Minnesota Rokkr up next. This is interesting because
Champs.
are they all in champs?
I almost want to put a full. Yeah, that's true. Do you think Dylan is the one that stays for sure? Is attached a lock?
I would say attach and stand. I mean, Standy's a lock, right? Standy's a lock.
True.
Standy's a lock.
Standy's a lock.
Standy's for sure a lock. Then the question is in my head, the other three would be in likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, likely. I like that. Yeah.
All three of them would be likely. I would almost be willing to put attach and Priesta in lock and then Major Maniac in likely.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a world where they absolutely blow it and then maybe they're like, maybe we should try something else here? If because you know.
Yeah, for sure. I think
let's say
I think Priesta could end up in
LAT.
Like I don't think Priesta is a lock.
And then like and if that's the case, then you know, suddenly like Standy's like a pretty hot commodity where most players will want to play with a guy like Standy. And then, you know, maybe you could recruit a pretty good team. So then I could see things switching up there. Oh, I forgot to put Dashy up here in the locks. And that does it actually, because we forgot to move Silly and he's going to be probably leaving as well. So yeah. Bang. There it is. There it is. So a few of the 50-50 guys, again, this was kind of our champs conversation. The guys that you really want to look for at champs would be basically any of the guys in the 50-50 category, any guys in the unlikely category, any of the guys in the champs category, obviously, are guys that are really important to look for champs and moving forward for those teams. And even the likely category, like we talked about with the Empire, is there any player that you're specifically like, I'm really interested to see with this guy at champs? Like, is there one guy that stands out to you?
Vivid.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how Vivid does at champs. I'm curious to see how he integrates into the culture at Envy, because he kind of was thrown in kind of last minute. He's been proving pretty well, but I think he hasn't built that strong relationship with everybody yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, is there one for you that sticks out?
I think just like the Florida squad, like,
yeah, I was going to go that direction probably too.
Like, again, like how like we've been saying, is like every time, like every week we say they're going to do something, they do the opposite. It would be so Florida to be like top 2 at champs.
Yeah. And then now the roster's suddenly a lock to stay.
Exactly.
And now they don't know what to do.
Exactly. It's like, that would be so Florida.
It would.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking at Awakening in Skyz. Definitely. It's like,
yeah, that makes sense.
What can these guys do? Are they going to pull up or, you know, what? But I agree with that. I can't tell you.
I would say the two guys that get interesting for me would be probably maybe John and Bance. Because like if Toronto coming off of after a collapse like they just had, and then if you go into champs and you lose, you go 0-2 at champs after the collapse that you had in a major final.
That would be rough.
It could just be a team breaking apart. Like it could just be like we're pissed, and then something happens. They blame a player, and then they just blame Bance because he's the scapegoat. And then
I hope that doesn't happen because I think they need Bance.
I agree. This team, he's been like the core communicator for that team. The guy that he's a glue. He really is.
Ultra is a team that should not break up pretty much no matter how well they place. I think Empire is a team that shouldn't break up. FaZe.
Empire's interesting. Empire is very interesting. I mean, Shotzi's kind of the guy to me to watch, where if Dallas goes 0-2, and then suddenly you're like, they're breaking up, then that's going to be a hot drama heading into the offseason about what happens with Dallas.
If anything, like Vivid will be the one gone, and then you're going to have Huke or Clay stepping back in.
I don't know, because it also comes down to the meta for next year and like how teams want to approach that, because we saw a lot of teams get caught this year with having the 2 AR situation. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So we obviously ended up being a pretty long conversation, but I thought it was a really fun one, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it out there as well. And any other final thoughts there? Otherwise, we can head into Intelligente or Irrelevante.
Sure. Let's get into it.
Alrighty, Sam. So, what do you got for us this time?
Oh,
The
we'll
first
see if this is,
online intelligent or irrelevant.
we'll see if this is good or not. You never know.
You never know.
But
You never
here we
know.
go. So, this is going to be a yes or no.
Okay.
Does the champs format of having the grand final on its own day fix the losers run advantage? Vote and
Oh.
comment your thoughts.
Very
So-
interesting.
Obviously, with the champs, we're now switching to where Sunday is just the grand finals.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what do you guys think? Do you think that fixes the
Is the
problem?
format good enough?
Yeah. Do you think,
It's better. I think it's better.
I mean, yeah, obviously people would be kind of annoyed because all it takes is 2 matches to get to the grand finals. So there is like an aspect of it where it's like let's say Florida, starts making this run in losers. And they've played a lot of matches this weekend now. And, FaZe has only played 2.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like the debate is like, does that fix the situation?
Yeah.
My
My
I
vote
would
is
say
no.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Really?
fire away.
Why?
Well, I am going for more definitive answers here. Josh, I know you don't like definitive answers here, but
Whoa. Definitive answers. Jeez. Who do you think I am?
the format is not going to be fixed until there's an advantage for the winner's team. And you know what I mean? Like they're having this best of 9 where it's the same. It doesn't make sense to me.
Besides,
but a day to ice out the hot team, I think it's pretty good.
right. I mean, because
It's hard to be like jacked
Right.
out of your mind for 24 hours.
Yeah, the big problem for like we heard for Major 5 was that the Rokkr were warming up against their coaches, while Toronto's playing OpTic. So OpTic is their warm up, and then Rokkr is getting a warm up against Saint and the squad. So it's like that gets a little bit tougher to get in that mindset to compete versus a team who just played 1 or 2 matches.
Oh yeah.
So I could see that, but I would say it does enough to make me content. Does it fix it? Yeah, I'll lean on the side of yes. I just fell off the fence to yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna vote no.
I think it's a yes too, Josh.
I'm gonna guess the percentage. I'm gonna guess 73% said yes.
I think that-
76% said yes.
Oh, I'm a wizard. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's
People
intelligent.
are
That's pretty
intelligent.
good.
Sam, you gotta say it. The people are
I guess intelligent. And
no. You, because you are the judge.
Oh, okay,
You're
true.
dumb as hell.
Irrelevant. It doesn't fix it. Come on. It doesn't fix the problem. Sheesh.
Now we're talking. There we go. See, that's what I'm waiting to hear, baby.
Some comments.
But yeah, read some comments. I want to hear what they say.
Dustin Sepp says, I guess technically it fixes it, but by not having the losers bracket team come in hot, but still doesn't fix the issue of winners bracket not having an advantage.
Fence sitter.
My guy.
Boom.
And they still haven't allowed the Paris Donnie Temp, aka my father, mother friggin' Legion, to be at champs. So I'm
I
boycotting.
mean, the advantage though is you only play 2 series, and then you're golden. If you lose, you got to play a billion more.
Yeah, I guess he's just about the competitive integrity of the grand finals. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, Skrapz
that's fair.
says yes, it makes it even for both teams, but winners bracket should still have a better advantage in my opinion. And then Desma, my man, bashes Boogeyman. You basically shut down the momentum and give the team coming from winners side a more fair chance instead of playing a hot team coming from losers. So
yeah.
Mhm.
I will agree it does help, but no, it doesn't fix it.
Okay. All right. Fair play. Dang, boys, what are you watching this week? Only one answer. There's 2 answers actually. One is I hold shift stream. Shift stream.
Mhm.
2, the Community League Finals on Saturday is also happening that day. So you can A, on one stream have up the Challengers Champs, and on B,
Mhm.
the equivalent to Challengers Champs, the Community League Finals.
Are
which
you
is my
solo
stream.
casting? Are you solo
I
casting?
am solo casting, yes.
Okay.
Well, maybe. We'll see who else is available, but yeah.
There's
What
a
else you
TV
watching?
show called Shameless.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really, I love Shameless.
I've
It's
seen it.
so
I never
good.
actually watched it. I've seen
Gotta
of it.
watch it. So good. Also, those of you who play Animal Crossing, I'm looking for flag designs for my town. I would like, a spade is like the symbol, like the focal symbol, and maybe some like purple in there. The town's called Neropolis.
Oh,
send me a
shout out
DM.
Nero.
Tweet at me if you got any flag designs I can use.
Nice. Sam, what are you watching?
Probably Peppa Pig with my daughter.
Oh no.
That's been the new obsession.
Tough.
If I have to hear one more British accent speaking pig, I'm gonna be.
Hello, I'm Peppa Pig.
I'm Peppa Pig.
That's tough.
Oh my
man.
God, there's a super funny like YouTube video with Peppa Pig. That show has like the funniest like comedic moments. I gotta find it.
They do have comedic moments like the whistling. Have you like seen that
That's
one?
the one I'm thinking of, dude. It's so funny.
It's actually pretty funny.
It's so funny. She gets so mad that somebody else just whistles.
She just hangs up.
Yeah.
I actually have seen that meme now that you mentioned it.
Pretty funny.
I'm watching the UFC. Derek Lewis fights this weekend. Ooh, baby.
Nice.
Things love to see. But yeah, it's been a real one, boys. That's the first online best of 3 pod. So hopefully, we maintained a decent energy. I think we're trying to, find our online vibes. Me and Sam, we're trying to get used to this environment that Rex has been dealing with. He's been dealing with for the past few weeks. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you guys did, like, comment, subscribe. Drop all your comments down below. And drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We do appreciate it. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. SalvationsElite to my right is Bachelor_3. And to our front right per usual is Rex, Shady Nero. And guys, this has been the best of 3 Call of Esports podcasting, guys. We will see ya next time. We out.